Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, this is Coulton Woods, and you are listening to Learning from the Experts. And today I want to talk to you about experience and how it is actually your most valuable asset. So here's the deal. I know how frustrating it is as an entrepreneur to waste countless hours sifting through wannabe experts who never actually helped me in the end. Then to learn years later that there was an expert who really could help me 100 times faster than learning it on my own. I have created this podcast to save you time and money while taking you on a journey with me as I learn from and interview real experts who can actually help you grow your business. My name is Coulton Woods, and you're listening to Learning from the Experts. Sweet stuff. So, I actually want to talk to you a little bit about today, or what I want to talk to you about today is something called experience. It's interesting to me that people think that you can just go through and learn things and then actually learn them without having any experience tied to it. Robert Herjavec, one of the sharks on Shark Tank, Robert Herjavec. I don't even know how to say his last name correctly. I think it's Herjavec, but one of the sharks on Shark Tank, the show, said that experience is your most valuable asset. Now, why do you think that is? I actually want to tell you a story. So when I was in college, as if you've heard my podcast before this, you'll know that when I was in college, I started my own repair store. Well, as I was in college, I remember going to a class, and we were learning about just break-even costs, like fixed costs, variable costs, ROI, like just basic different things. And I remember in this class, it was just a basic entrepreneur class. And I remember the teachers teaching us some things and literally would ask us a question about okay, well, if your costs are this much and you have to pay for it every month no matter what, what is that, a fixed cost or variable cost? And yeah. And then they're like, okay, well, if you sell your products and you make this much profit on your product, how much do you have to sell to cover your fixed costs? And it's like, okay, well, to me, I was like, well, that's easy. I can 100%. I mean, I can tell you that right away because I've done it in my own business and I know what my costs are and I know what I have to sell in order to cover those costs and how much I make, by selling whatever product or service that I was doing. And so I remember I'm sitting in this class and I'm like, the teacher's asking us a question. Okay, well, if you sell this much, how much do you have to sell in order for you to cover your fixed costs? And I'm like, oh, that's easy. Just this, divided by that, whatever, And I'm like, that it's this much. And he's like, yeah, that's correct. And then I remember so many people in there, so many of these kids in college, they couldn't wrap their head around it for some reason. They're like, I don't really understand why or how this all actually works. And I mean, going through that whole semester, I was like the teacher's favorite student, me and this one other guy. I remember this other guy had some business experience as well. And it was just it was a super easy class for us. And we just flew through that. And it wasn't hard for us because we'd had some experience already in the field. We had already done different things, and it wasn't quite, I didn't understand it at the time, but I look back on it and I'm like, holy cow, if I wouldn't have had the experience that I had doing business, it would have been just as hard for me. But once you have the experience, it's kind of almost like, oh, well, that's so easy. How come you don't understand that? Or how come you don't get it? It makes so much sense. That's easy. I've been through that. But we forget as people, just as people, that if you haven't gone through the experience, it's not as easy to understand. I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but this is not totally business related, but it helps 100% with experience. So me and my wife went through over 6 years of infertility battle. We literally tried to have children for over 6 years. So it wasn't until 7 years of being married that we actually were able to have a kid. and and he's 4.5 months now. Like, we just had our first baby boy, and I'm super excited to have him. He's like the cutest little thing I've ever seen, and he's already smiling, laughing, and he's a huge blessing in our lives. But what's interesting is, if we didn't have that experience of what it's like to work so hard or try so much and go through, and a lot of people don't even know the terms. I mean, we went through, we had things like that you call IUIs that we had to do, and doctor's appointments and shots and different medicine like Femara and now I just forgot the other one, but lots of, Clomid. Like, there's all these different terms and stuff. We ended up having to do IVF, and if you don't know what IVF is, it's in vitro, where they actually literally have to fertilize the egg outside of the body and then implant it back into the body, and it's not cheap. So it took us over 6 years to essentially get to that point where it's like every doctor's telling us we don't know why. She had multiple surgeries on different things that may have been causing it, may have been causing the infertility, and those ended up not working, and so many other issues and different things. And finally it came to the point where we knew we had to do IVF. So we did IVF, and it was successful in the first round, thank goodness. And I'm sorry for anybody that ever has to go through that. It is not fun. It is not a good road or battle to be going on, and it's very emotional. But it's such a huge blessing to have that little one around now. But with that being said, for other people that are going through infertility, it's really interesting, because if you haven't experienced it, you don't understand it. That's flat out. I'm going to tell you, you just don't understand it. Don't try to understand it. You just don't. I don't know how many times my wife has had people come up to her and say, "Oh, like, yeah, I had somebody go through that. You'll be fine. Like, they were fine. You'll be fine." That's, I'm sorry, but that is not the best thing to say when you're in the middle of it. Like, like, "Oh, you just got shot? Hey, I know somebody that got shot and they turned out fine. You'll be okay. Yeah, like, don't worry about it. You got shot. Everybody gets shot. Don't worry about it." Like, it's not something that you just kind of brush off. So, but having been through that experience and having had the experiences that we've had through that, we can essentially cope, or we understand it now. That experience has brought understanding to us that you can't get any other way, essentially. I wasn't even planning on talking about our infertility battle. That's interesting, but it's the same with business. It's the same with everything that you go through in life. If you don't experience something, you're not going to learn it. I don't know how many times people buy a course or they buy a program and they're like, "Yeah, I bought it. It's going to make me like wealthy and rich, and I'm going to be able to do this or do that, or I'm going to be the best social media person ever, or the Facebook ads person ever." But then they don't go through, or they'll go through the material and they're like, "Oh, it didn't really work for me." Well, they didn't actually like implement it or try it or experience how it works. And if you don't do that, you won't actually learn it. It's just like learning for two. Like, you have to be able to teach something in order to know it. Like, the teacher always learns more than the student, because they have to understand it at a level that's different than just being taught that material. So if you can turn around and teach the same materials that you're going through in your course to somebody else and have it be clear enough and understandable enough that they can understand it and use it and do, have results based on what you've taught them, then you're at a whole nother level of understanding. You've kind of gone through and begun to experience it. Now, if you've actually implemented it and experienced it and like seen it and done it and had feedback from what you're doing, then you learn so many more things when you experience it. I can think of even bad experiences when I've done business deals with people and they have completely not been ethical in their dealings essentially with me. And I learned a ton from that. Like, I experienced that a couple times and I'm like, never again will I experience this because that was horrible. Like, not that I won't ever experience it, but now I know how to, or know what to look out for to kind of not go through that experience again. You learn stuff very quickly when you experience it, but I know this, I'm going to make it a little bit of a shorter podcast today. And just kind of go over, I just wanted to go over how experience is so much more valuable than just learning something or going through a course and listening to it. You need to experience it. You have to go through it. And hopefully my very short version of our IVF story helps you understand a little bit more about experience. It's not just in your business world, but also in your personal life, and then those that you interact with around you. So thank you very much for being on here, guys. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you again. Are you looking to jumpstart your business by learning or getting help from the real experts? Go to learningfromtheexperts.com to find pre-approved experts that I've handpicked for you. Please don't forget to let me know how I'm doing by subscribing, rating, and leaving feedback.